Hey, welcome to the talking room. I'm Alex.
And I'm Maya. It's good to be here with you again.
How are you feeling today? Like, genuinely, not the polite answer.
Honestly, a little nervous. I've been thinking about today's topic all morning. It feels heavy.
Yeah, same here. I almost didn't want to open this conversation, but that's exactly why we should, right?
Exactly. Because if we're uncomfortable, imagine how the people living with this feel every single day.
Today we're talking about something that a lot of people struggle with, but almost nobody talks about openly. Porn addiction.
And I want to say this gently at the start. This isn't about judging anyone. This is about understanding something that quietly affects so many lives.
Men, women, young people, older people, it doesn't discriminate, and a silence around it makes everything worse.
So let's just have an honest conversation. No lectures, no shame, just two people trying to understand.
So where do we even start with this? I think for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like an addiction at first.
Right. It starts as curiosity, maybe, or boredom, or just something that happens once, and then twice, and then it becomes a pattern.
Have you ever thought about how invisible this problem is? Like, nobody knows you're struggling unless you tell them.
That's what makes it so dangerous. There's no external sign. No one at work notices, your friends don't see it. It's completely private.
And because it's private, people convince themselves it's not a problem. They think, I'm not hurting anyone.
But they are hurting someone, themselves, slowly. And by the time they realize it, they're already deep into it.
Why do you think people don't recognize it as an addiction?
I think because addiction is usually associated with substances, alcohol, drugs, something physical. But this is behavioral. It lives in your brain, in your habits.
And society kind of normalizes it too. Like it's everywhere. It's a joke in movies. It's treated as just something people do.
Which makes it harder to say, I think I have a problem, because everyone else seems fine with it.
That's a really lonely place to be, feeling like something is wrong with you, but not having the words to explain it.
Or feeling like if you did explain it, people would think you're weird or broken.
Let's talk about why this happens. What pulls people toward this in the first place?
I think the biggest one is escape. Life is stressful. Work, relationships, responsibilities, and this becomes a way to shut everything off for a few minutes.
Like a mental vacation that costs nothing and requires no effort.
Exactly. And your brain loves it. The dopamine hit is instant, it's powerful, and it asks nothing from you.
Unlike real connection, which is messy and requires vulnerability.
Right. Real intimacy is scary. It involves rejection, communication, effort. This is just easy pleasure with no risk.
Do you think loneliness plays a role?
Huge role. I think a lot of people turn to this because they feel disconnected. Maybe they don't have close relationships. Maybe they feel invisible.
And in that moment, it feels like something, even if it's empty.
It fills a gap temporarily, but the gap gets bigger afterward. That's the cruel part.
What about boredom? I feel like that's underestimated.
Definitely. When there's nothing to do, when you're alone with your phone, when it's late at night, those are the danger zones.
And now everyone has a private screen in their pocket at all times. That access changes everything.
It removes all barriers. There's no effort involved, no waiting, just instant access whenever you want.
That's terrifying when you think about it, especially for young people who are still forming their understanding of relationships.
And they're learning about intimacy from something that isn't real. That's a whole other layer of damage.
Let's talk about what this actually does to a person over time, because I think people underestimate the impact.
The first thing I've heard a lot of people mention is energy. They just feel drained all the time.
Like physically tired?
Physically and mentally. There's this low-level exhaustion that doesn't go away even with sleep.
I've read that it messes with your motivation too, like you stop wanting to do things that used to excite you.
Because your brain is getting such intense stimulation from this, that normal life feels boring, work feels boring, hobbies feel boring.
That's called dopamine desensitization, right? Your baseline gets messed up.
Yeah, your brain needs more and more to feel the same thing, and regular life just can't compete.
Have you ever felt that with anything? Not necessarily this, but just that feeling of needing more stimulation.
Honestly, yes. With social media sometimes. That feeling of refreshing and refreshing, looking for something interesting, it's a small version of the same thing.
And it leaves you feeling empty afterward.
Always. The scroll never satisfies. It just makes you want more.
So imagine that same loop, but with something even more powerful. The brain doesn't stand a chance.
And then there's focus. People talk about brain fog, trouble concentrating, forgetting things.
That's something I didn't expect when I started reading about this topic, the cognitive impact.
Your brain is overwhelmed. It's processing all this intense stimulation, and it starts to struggle with normal tasks.
Which affects work, school, everything, and people don't connect the dots.
They think they're just tired or stressed. They don't realize the source of the problem.
What about confidence? That's something I've heard mentioned a lot.
This is a big one. People who struggle with this often feel deep shame, and that shame erodes self-esteem slowly.
You start to see yourself differently, like you're hiding something dirty.
And you are hiding something. That secret creates distance from yourself and from others.
How does it affect relationships?
It creates unrealistic expectations. Real partners can't compete with fantasy. Real intimacy feels disappointing.
And there's guilt. Even if you're not in a relationship, there's this feeling that you're doing something wrong.
Which you often are, violating your own values. And that disconnect between who you want to be and what you're doing is painful.
That's what self-respect is, right? Living in alignment with your values.
Exactly. And every time you break that alignment, you trust yourself a little less.
That's hard to come back from when you stop trusting yourself.
It is, but it's possible. It just takes time and honesty.
Why do you think quitting is so hard, even when people know it's hurting them?
Because knowing isn't enough. This isn't a logic problem. It's a habit loop embedded in your brain.
Trigger, behavior, reward, and the brain loves that loop.
It becomes automatic. You don't even decide to do it. You just find yourself doing it.
And then afterward comes the guilt.
Which makes you feel worse, which makes you want to escape, which brings you right back to the behavior.
It's a cycle that feeds itself.
Exactly. And breaking it isn't just about willpower. Willpower runs out.
So what actually works? If willpower isn't enough, what do people need?
I think the first thing is awareness. Really honest awareness about what's happening.
Not denial, not minimizing, just seeing it clearly.
Right, because you can't change something you won't look at.
That's uncomfortable, though. Most people don't want to look.
Of course not. It's painful, but it's the first step. You have to stop lying to yourself.
What comes after awareness?
Understanding your triggers. When does this happen? What time of day? What emotional state are you in?
So like mapping the pattern.
Yes, because if you know the pattern, you can interrupt it.
That makes sense. If you know you're vulnerable at night when you're alone, you can change something about that situation.
Maybe you don't keep your phone in the bedroom. Maybe you call a friend. Maybe you go to bed earlier.
Small structural changes.
Small but powerful. You're not relying on willpower anymore. You're removing the opportunity.
What about replacing the habit? I've heard that's important.
Huge. Your brain needs something else to do with that energy. You can't just remove the behavior and leave a hole.
So what works? Exercise?
Exercise is great. It gives you dopamine in a healthy way. It tires out your body. It improves your mood.
What else?
Creative outlets, social connection, anything that makes you feel genuinely good about yourself.
Real accomplishments instead of fake pleasure.
Exactly. The goal is to rebuild your relationship with reward, to teach your brain that good things can come from effort.
That takes time, though.
It takes a lot of time, and there will be setbacks.
How do people deal with relapse? Because that seems like where a lot of people give up.
Relapse is almost guaranteed, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you failed.
But it feels like failure.
It does, and the shame after relapse is often worse than the shame before quitting.
So people spiral. They think, I'm never going to change, so why try?
That's the trap, the all or nothing thinking. One mistake becomes total defeat.
How do you get out of that?
You have to see relapse as information, not identity. It tells you something about your triggers or your strategy.
So you learn from it instead of being destroyed by it.
Right. You get curious instead of cruel. What happened? What can I do differently next time?
That's hard when you're in the middle of the shame spiral.
It is. That's why self-compassion is so important. You have to treat yourself like you would treat a friend who's struggling.
We're way harder on ourselves than we'd ever be on someone else.
Always. And that harshness doesn't help. It just adds more pain to an already painful situation.
Do you think talking about it helps, like with another person?
I think it can be transformative. The secrecy is part of what makes it so powerful. When you say it out loud, it loses some of its grip.
But who do you tell? That's terrifying.
It is. You have to choose carefully. Someone safe, someone who won't judge. Maybe a therapist, maybe a close friend.
Or even an anonymous community online. There are support groups for this.
There are, and just knowing you're not alone can be incredibly healing.
Because the isolation is part of the problem.
A huge part. Shame grows in silence. Connection is the antidote.
What about self-respect? How does someone rebuild that?
Slowly, through small actions that align with who they want to be.
Like keeping promises to yourself.
Exactly. If you say you're going to do something, do it, even if it's small, especially if it's small.
That builds trust back.
It does. Every time you follow through, you're telling yourself, I can count on me.
And that feeling is probably better than any pleasure from the addiction.
Way better, because it's real, it's lasting, it's yours.
I think a lot of people feel like they've gone too far, like they're damaged beyond repair.
That's the shame talking. It's not true. The brain is incredibly adaptable.
Neuroplasticity, right?
Right. The pathways that were built can be weakened. New pathways can be created. It just takes time and consistency.
So there's real hope.
There's absolutely real hope. People recover from this. People rebuild their lives. It happens every day.
What would you say to someone who's listening and recognizing themselves in this conversation?
I'd say, first of all, you're not broken. You're human, and you're dealing with something that millions of people deal with.
The shame you feel is understandable, but it's not the truth about who you are.
And the fact that you're even thinking about this, that you're aware of it, that's a huge first step.
You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to start being honest with yourself.
One small choice at a time, one day at a time, that's how change happens.
And it's okay to ask for help. It's not weak. It's actually the bravest thing you can do.
Because you're saying, I can't do this alone, and that's true for all of us with the hard stuff.
None of us are meant to do it alone.
No, we're built for connection. That's what we're really searching for. Not the fake thing, the real thing.
And the real thing is worth the effort, even when it's scary.
Especially when it's scary.
This has been a heavy conversation, but I'm glad we had it.
Me too. It felt important, like something that needed to be said.
And hopefully it reached the person who needed to hear it.
I hope so. Wherever you are, whatever you're carrying, you're not alone, and you don't have to stay stuck.
One small step. That's all it takes to start.
Take care of yourself. Be patient with yourself.
And we'll see you next time on The Talking Room.
Goodbye for now.